Thank you for braving the heat on Thursday. It's much cooler today than yesterday. It's definitely why I fell up the stage. It's got nothing to do with it. So what I want to do, let's test if this works. There we go. So I'm just going to talk you through a little bit about what we see in the market, the challenges, the opportunities, and what we are going to aim to do in the future. So give you a bit of a view into our thinking, really. So firstly, my name's Alasdair. Nice to meet you all, sort of. So I'm the Chief Product and Marketing Officer at Emaldo. Emaldo, we kind of split ourselves into three parts in one business. So we do residential, we do C&I, which we class anything kind of below 1 megawatt, really, and then we do utility, anything above 1 megawatt. And the models change depending on the market. So in residential, we manufacture our own batteries, we control our own batteries using the VPP software that we have, and we access the market through partners and aggregators to get the BRP access in the Nordic markets that you need. In the utility and C&I side, we very much offer a kind of a solution, really. It's more of a partnership model, so we don't control those batteries, but we partner with aggregators that do. So across Europe, we have 10 kind of confirmed partnerships that are pre-integrated, pre-approved, if you like, and then we offer that solution. So our core markets today are, we started in Sweden, Denmark and Finland. So I'm going to talk mainly about those few markets. But we've just gone into kind of Poland, Netherlands, Czech Republic. Poland certainly seems to be booming. A lot of conversations about that over the last few days. And we have over 150 megawatts of just the residential side, actually. So just the batteries that we control, so 12,000 odd systems, and that's mainly in Sweden, Finland and Denmark, so about 7,000 in Sweden. So it's a pretty big market for us. So what we think about, so our strategy, if you like, is connected technologies for a cooler world. That's it. We really do try and have this longer term vision about what we want to try and achieve. And the Nordic markets can really help, I think, pave the way for other markets to follow and improve. And I want to talk a little bit about kind of renewables, how successful they've been, and the challenge that has created. So creating renewable generation is not really the issue anymore. You've seen how many halls here full of technology around renewable generation and storage. European Commission says 89 gigawatts of renewable power will be added this year, which will be a record if that's achieved. And roughly 47% of energy is coming from renewables, which is up 30% over the last 10 years. So it's not generation really that's the problem. It's not access to clean energy that we're struggling with, or that we really have a challenge with, I guess. So what is the current challenge, right? Well, more renewables equals more connections into the grid. I'm sure plenty of people here have been at the wrong end of some long connection queues. I mean, just for example, in Denmark, there's roughly 22 gigawatts of connection requests sat waiting for the approval that they need. Some of them go all the way back to December. These aren't all massive projects, right? You need a approval for anything above kind of a 100, 261, something like that, and it's just dragging everything along. And the European Commission again, very helpfully, came out and said it's going to cost 584 billion. That's just a number to me. It's hard to put that into money in my mind. Just in terms of infrastructure upgrades, as we're adding all this renewable generation and then storage capacity. But do we need new infrastructure is the question I think gets asked, probably not as much as it should. And one of the challenges, of course, is that infrastructure is built based on peaks. But peaks are changing, right? Do we have a congestion problem, or do we have a peak problem, right? Most of our grid is underutilized most of the time. But of course, we have to build grids to handle the peak loads. So should we be focusing on shifting the peaks or building more infrastructure to cope with those peaks? And there's a couple of examples I want to deep dive into. So I said earlier, our core markets are Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. I'm going to talk about Sweden and Denmark. So Denmark is, you could consider it a leader in terms of renewable generation. 92% of generation now in Denmark is from renewables. In terms of the amount of energy that's used by end customers, it's third, funnily enough, behind Sweden and then Finland. So the Nordics are really ploughing forward there. And what they've done is, instead of ploughing money into infrastructure projects, they've really gone, how can we get customers or asset owners to participate so we don't have to? Investing in infrastructure is not their first answer. How can we use dynamic tariffs? How can we use peak charging? They're thinking about that at the moment. Of course, that's coming through the EU, but it's something they're really proactive about. How can we use flexibility? How can we open up and make it easy for people to go through the pre-qualification process and get their assets online? It is one of the easiest markets to get your assets into the FCR ancillary system, for example. By far one of the easiest that we've seen. And that's really led to some great forward thinking in the Danish market. And Sweden has a kind of slightly different story. They're one of the world leaders in terms of smart meter installation. They were almost at 100%, way faster than anybody else. I'm from England. We're horrendous at smart meter implementations. I think it's something like 60%. And it's really made a difference. That last mile measurement for them, of course, some of you will know, they've had peak charging in for a while. That has actively changed people's behaviours. They will genuinely change their heat pump schedules, change their EV schedules to make sure they don't fall foul of these peak charges. And it's making a difference to the amount of grid investment they have to do, right? And of course, Sweden a few years ago had the big subsidies to help get the solar panels and batteries into the homes. The evolution of batteries, I think enough people in this room understand how really originally it was storage only, then it was storage and backup. Now we're talking about revenue streams, and revenue streams is the standard conversation now. It's not really a can you do it, it's how do you do it. It's almost an expectation from customers. And we want to see the shift. Our kind of vision is to see the shift from buying products. So you might buy a battery from here, solar panels from here, maybe an aggregator control box from over there, right? And you try and put it all together. But how can we engage more people? And we believe that's by shifting from individual products to focusing on outcomes, right? What I mean by outcomes is looking at energy as a service. In the residential space, that's really where we're heading. So there's a flood of finance into the energy industry, right? I'm sure plenty of people have seen that. There's plenty of people at the event certainly funding projects over the last few days. And the ability to remove the upfront cost barrier for the masses, provide a heat pump, solar panels, and a battery, and for example, commit to reducing the energy spend, the actual outgoing, by 20%, as an example. It of course be house by house, forecast, etc. But is that possible? Well, the tech exists to do that. And actually, if you look at some of the more forward-thinking C&I products, actually we were just talking about a huge tolling agreement that Next have done recently. It is entirely possible to fulfill those sorts of commitments to end customers. So we see over the next kind of 12 months, 18 months, we will certainly be live in this space by January this year. We'll have rolled out our first cohort, and that's the growth, right? It's how do we get more participation? How do we remove all the infrastructure costs? Do we really have to wait that long and put 584 billion into infrastructure costs? Or can we think differently? Can we get more people participating? That's our vision. And I'm bang on time. There's 5 seconds left.